He has with him the convener of Watching the Vote movement, Ezenwa Nwagu, and Cynthia Mbamalu, also program manager Watching the Vote. Femi, take it over from here if you can hear me loud and clear. Okay, so what do we need to know right now? It's less than about 24 hours to go.
Oh, thank you, Ngozi. Okay, well, before we encountered that technical hitch there, you're telling me that INEC this time has gotten everything, or seem to have gotten almost everything right. In what maybe specific terms now are you saying, or what are those indicators that suggest that INEC seem to be getting everything right this time around?
Well, until after the elections, before we can fully say yes, they've gotten it right. But from the preparations, I can say that there's been an improvement. So if you look at yesterday, we observed the deployment of the materials from the INEC office here in Oka down to the different local governments, the 21 local governments. And we can confirm that as at 7:05 p.m. yesterday, the last deployment was done to Anocha local government here in Anambra State. So I think that's an improvement, because this is 24 hours and we can say that, yes, the materials are the local government office and it's moved to the racks for early deployment on elections day. So we're hoping to record at least opening of polling units to be early on Saturday. But beyond that, there are still several issues that one needs to consider. One, it's good enough to start the planning and the processes in place, but then again, you also want to concentrate on the INEC officials that will be deployed, both the permanent and ad hoc staff, because they are the ones that the citizens would encounter at the polling units. They are the ones that would be administering the elections at the polling units. So I think one of the things we're looking out for is that the commission emphasizes and has properly trained, hopefully they've trained the officials, and will emphasize to them that you must stick and respect the INEC guidelines. You must ensure that the procedures are adhered to at the polling units. And then when it comes to the counting of results, because that is where we usually have challenges, the counting and collation, because we notice that the weak link when it comes to election is the point of collation, to ensure that the officials respect the rules and adhere to the rules when it comes to the collation of results. And that at least at the polling unit, citizens count with the officials the ballot papers, and that the Form 60 EC60E is posted at every polling unit, so that you can go and you would take a picture of whatever to be sure that, yes, this is the result for each polling unit. But you know, the commission, INEC is not the only major stakeholder when it comes to the election. You look at the security. And I think for us as an observation group is the level of cooperation within the security and the Electoral Commission. So if you go down in the streets, you see some of the citizens express their worries and fear that with the deployment, they hope the security would not be there to intimidate and cause fear among citizens. And I think that is the key point the security agencies need to look into. One, it's good to have deployment to secure the environment, to secure the lives of voters, but you also do not want the deployment in such a way that you deter voters from turning out to vote. And then also you don't want to operate in such a way that citizens feel that you're here to harm them and not to protect them. So to operate in that level of civility, you know, and that they are working in cooperation with the Electoral Commission. So
okay, let me let Ezenwa weigh now on this. Now, looking at this from ECU and other provisions that have been put in place by INEC, would you say now that at this point, or how can you say we can measure the people's confidence in the electoral process? I'm talking of Anambra people now, in the voting process that would happen tomorrow, looking at events leading to the process, and of course, as the clock ticks to the D-Day.
Well, as Cynthia said, this is perhaps, in recent memory, the only election that the investment in preparation by the electoral management body is one that you can say has upped the ante, relatively speaking. From the whistle blow of this election, like 6 months back, in terms of announcing the dates for the election, preparation, the timetable, they have meticulously, up to distribution of materials yesterday, it's never happened. If you cast your mind, you know, though it was a challenge, up to Saturday morning, materials were still being distributed and all of that. As we speak now, materials, the last of it has already gone to the, so that ordinarily has capacity to inspire confidence.
But that's because the terrain favors easy deployment of materials.
Well, you could talk about the niceness of topography, but excuses are hoisted even in more better environments previously. You had better environments, but people still will not do their duty. You create those emergencies. When those emergencies are created, it is to a particular end. But we are seeing a reversal, and we must also note that and blow it and let the world know that things are changing. We like bad news. We like it didn't work well. And our work is not just to talk about whether it's not working well. Our work is also to say it's worked well in terms of logistics. All right? But what are the things that will inspire confidence? For instance, you are now going to have a situation in which the results will be pasted. And Professor Mahmood made that point.
At each polling unit.
At each polling unit. And indeed, he put the caveat that you got the right as a citizen to take photograph, to snap the results. So any serious interested stakeholder, especially the political parties, if they are able to mobilize party agents around the 4,000 plus polling units across the state, they will not have issues.
They can even know the results before INEC officially announces it.
At the polling unit. So even as media, as civil society, we have a responsibility to look out to see that the instruction that the leadership of the electoral management body has given is cascaded down to its officials at the polling unit. That's what is important. So the responsibility is on us to look out for the fact that these guys are doing what they've been told to do.
All right, 37 candidates. This is, I think, another first in Nigeria's democratic history. We've not had this number of aspirants now running for the office of governor in any state, looking at the previous elections. Of course, there are contenders and there are pretenders. We know just like a handful of them are those that are considered. INEC has given them a level playing ground, but of course, when you look at the whole intricacies and everything that is involved in winning majority of votes that would determine who would emerge winner, just a few of them are considered as, yes, the front runners in this process. Now, out of these 37, there are only 5 women. Just 5 of them are women. Are you, is this, should we cheer about this, or are you concerned about the number of women that have thrown their hat in the ring, or that you say the process allowed to come up as candidates? There are 5 women, and out of the running the deputy governorship candidates, 8 of them are also women.
Yes. Well, I think one, as perhaps as a woman, I feel, yes, it's an improvement. At least you have this number in the governorship elections, but it's still low because you have 37 and you just have 5. But beyond that is to look at how do we make our processes more friendly, or more to enable more women participation, because the women are still not among the leading 5 parties, if you want to put that in quotes. And you know, to win an election, you need to win a minimum of 1/4 of the votes cast in 2/3 majority of the local governments in the state. And to do that, you would need to build structures. You would need to start a campaign that early to win that level of votes, especially in a close election like we have, because we're going to have a close election here in Anambra with the leading contestant really pushing forward to be the emerging candidate. So I feel when it still comes to women participation, they say a lot that needs to be done. There's still a lot that needs to be done in respect to access, not just access to be on the ballot within a party, but even to within the leading political parties, as you want to call them, to open up the space for more women within those parties to emerge. And then that is one of the things why we are pushing for the independent candidacy. Perhaps that would open up the space to have more women running as candidates. But beyond that, is also to build that citizen consciousness, to start looking at women as not just persons that, as people that can actually become chief executive of a state. Because it's one thing to run for office, it's another thing to have voters vote for you. And I think that level of social engineering and reorientation begins from, it's beyond having political parties field candidates, but also having citizens start identifying women as people that can run for office. And then also having women who are interested learn politics, in the sense that it's not about competing against the big money bags this time, but learning your own campaign in a way that you would have the voters who would turn out and vote for you. And as a young person, I also want to say that we should have more young contenders in there. I mean, the youngest contender is it's 35 years old, but we have more under 40s. We have very few 35-year-olds, and we feel it's time to even open up the space to have more younger people running for political office. But when it comes to politics, you need to play the game of politics.
Okay, let's look at the political consciousness now of people. Of course, coming into this election, there are fears that there might be boycott because we understand that certain groups have called for people to boycott the election. But political parties have also not, of course, allowed things to go like that. They have gone out to canvass for votes and, of course, to create that awareness to spur the people to come out on the election day to come and cast their vote. Now, looking at the level of, let me say, political awareness, how well will you say political parties and even INEC, how well would you say they have done that job of creating that awareness and encouraging people to come out and assuring them that, yes, that environment is safe, that enabling environment has been created that will allow them to come and cast their vote in a free and fair electoral process?
I think that Anambra people have already shamed the enemies of democracy. That's just the best way to put it. You're already looking at 37 candidates. It's historic. Not just in Nigerian elections, for a gubernatorial election anywhere in the world, you haven't had any 37 candidates vying for office. So Anambra people have posted for posterity something that inspires already, that their own citizens are interested. Again, Anambra State has also made history in being the highest collectors of PVC in the current PVC collection process in Anambra State. That is citizens. As we speak, up to yesterday, Cynthia was on a radio program yesterday. Yeah. People were still angry that they have not been able to get their PVCs and they've not been able to get transfers that they wanted. What level of excitement and enthusiasm do you want when that in Idemili local government, where state constituency election will be held, 8 political parties are vying for that one office. So in terms of statistics, you're already seeing enthusiasm. You're already seeing a forward-looking people who want to explore the process of democracy to elect a governor. So I think that the propaganda, the propaganda of certain extraneous forces boycotting election does not fit into the current picture that you yourself have seen on ground in Anambra State. And I think that we need to shun, people who are not on ground, who sits in the comforts of their home, using their computers to spread, and most times you even see analysts who sit somewhere, they just talk about situations that are different from what is on the ground. So my sense is that Anambra people want to elect a governor. They are enthusiastic about it. But again, even in good times, in quotes, Anambra, you need to do a lot of work to bring out the votes. If you remember, the last elections did not record very huge turnouts. 186 voted this governor that is in power. 67,000 had voted the previous governor and the rest of them.
Okay, I'm afraid time is not our friend here. Well, thank you very much, Cynthia Mbalu and Ezenwa Unwagu. Well, over to you, Michael and Ungozi in our Lagos studios. That's the situation report here from